realized that he is quite true to his philosophy. The smile and shine in his eyes spoke through the work that he does. Can we have the audio file of introduction of Mr. Kaushik?
Kaushik is currently the Market Development Manager for Southeast Asia and Pacific, looking after the sales and commercial business of the Fleet Performance Management Unit at StormGeo, Alfa Laval, which is a very similar earlier role in the digital solutions and innovation ecospace at DNV. Prior to that, he was head of GL Systems Certification and head of GL Academy in South Asia. Before joining GL, Kaushik was the Vice President Technical with Aquarius Services, an associate of Anglo-Eastern Ship Management, a ship surveyor, lead auditor, and global lead tutor with Lloyd's Register, country manager, India with ABS Quality Evaluations, quality manager with Applied Research International Simulations, and a sailing chief engineer with Great Eastern Shipping Company. He is a fellow of the Institute of Marine Engineers and of the Royal Institute of Naval Architects. With over 36 years of industry experience, his daily dose of fresh ideas stems from the philosophy, enjoy what you do and do what you enjoy. Kaushik Seal is also the Vice President of the Federation of Global Maritime Community, GMC, a not-for-profit organization committed to shaping the future and well-being of seafarers globally. Recently, a book was authored and launched by Dr. Binay Singh titled Kaushik Seal, Cheerful, Loyal Maritime Leader.
May I invite the man who needs no introduction today, Shoukat, to please join in and moderate the session with Mr. Kaushik Seal.
Okay, so we are running 15 minutes behind schedule, so I'm not going to make up for that during Kaushik Seal's presentation, but we'll make up that during lunch, and we'll diet a little bit, so it's okay. So right. So, just a thing that I was remembering a few days back, my son came and told me in the morning, Dad, I'll not be able to play football today. I said, what's the problem? What's wrong? He said, my computer crashed down. So, we are reaching a situation in our lives where even games and everything that these kids do are all online. So, I will just call upon Mr. Kaushik Seal, Kaushik Da, as I generally mention to him. And I'm really grateful for him for taking the trouble, flying down from Singapore for this session. Kaushik Da, audio.
I'll just use the same mic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and the August gathering. Some of you are, of course, known to me for the last, 3 decades. Some even go back to 4, right? And while we were talking of use of technology and mentoring and all, I just realized I have one of the biggest influences and mentors from my college days, Gurmeet sir, as we used to call him then. And he was quite instrumental in shaping the early part of what we used to say and do, right? So, yeah, it gives me great pleasure, and I thank TNC and Shoukat for giving us this opportunity to present what we are doing in the last few years at technology. And I like the tagline, what he has mentioned, that it's building value for the future. And that's the reason why we have the cadets there, and we have to have inclusion and diversity. So it's really heartening to see the ladies in good numbers, and hopefully we should have, as Shoukat always wanted to have, a lady presenting in technology. So you'll be glad to know that in Singapore we have a 50-50% workforce, and we are part of that inclusion and diversity movement, right? Okay, so the topic, what StormGeo, and now of course we are part of the larger Alfa Laval group, so it gives us an opportunity to embrace technology as we move ahead. So we would like to show you the why. What is the why before the how? So can I request you to play the short video, please? Just 40 seconds. The StormGeos. Click on the StormGeo. No, on top. StormGeo. Yeah.
We are passionate about protecting the future of our planet. It's our why. Why our data scientists, routing experts, and meteorologists navigate shipping toward decarbonization. Why we help maximize production in offshore wind. Why we keep businesses safe from severe weather. What's your why? StormGeo Alpha Laval, putting our best minds forward. We are passionate.
All right. So what we have is something called the S Suite, which is essentially a one-stop solution of all the problems what we perceive on board. So we talked about having good data. In the morning, I remember Captain Bhasin mentioning the new sort of fuel or the new oil for us is data, which then is supposed to bind everything like together. So we make sure that our decision making and the data that we have is of utmost quality. And that's the way we realize that end-to-end energy efficiency services for the shipping would form the basis of good data quality. So what is the S Suite? It's essentially a one-stop solution, as we said. And Captain Chawla, in his talk, he mentioned that you have the cutting-edge fleet performance centers, which can analyze all the ship's data within a flick of a button, and inside 15 seconds, you have all the data streams like flowing in. So that's exactly what we do, and we have typically three verticals there. S Planner, which is the voyage and, it's the planning part of it. Then we have the S Insight. With the data which comes in, we make sure that the analytics are set in correctly. And then, of course, the vessel is routed from point A to point B with that same data set. The idea being that the vessel has to fill in data in whatever format they do. That's not so important now. But the idea is that the vessel should fill in data once and of a very high quality. That's the key, what we try and support, so that we eliminate multiple reportings and we make sure that that is validated and it's plausibility checked. So that's the technology what we have used moving forward. Yeah. So in terms of the numbers, we have quite a large community which we have built over the last few years, and that translates to about 70,000 voyages a year. And we have our software and solutions put on about 5,500 vessels and another 1,000 with digital publications. This number will go up because we know from 2025, in the next couple of years, we will downgrade the paper charts. Yeah? And of course, we have our fleet performance solutions on about 3,100 vessels. So what is the S Suite? In a graphical display, we look at the green part from the ship, which is the reporting system. This is called the S log, where typically we can take manually reported data, as well as we can ingest auto-log data through various equipment and machinery. We take that data set, push it to our central servers, and from there, using AI, using various algorithms, that data is used for various purposes. So the one in orange on the right-hand side is for routing. We use it with our weather overlays, where the vessel can then be routed from point A to point B safely. And of course, we issue end-of-voyage reports, which help charter parties, charterers, operators look at how the vessel is done. The one in the green is the S Insight, which is our core of fleet performance management, and that's in three basically parts: commercial, technical, and environmental compliance. And that's essentially where we do a lot of decarbonization work. And we make sure that we calculate what are the carbon emitted, what's the carbon emitted per voyage, and we make sure that every voyage that carbon is reduced. So we don't keep it for like end of the year or even end of 2 years. We would like to take it voyage per voyage basis. And we make sure that we make every voyage and the next voyage more fascinating for the crew and for the office. Of course, the blue part is our onboard route optimization. We let the master and the crew on board, we give them flexibility to make sure that a route is planned properly. And this is where our community and the 1 million plus routes that we already have in the system, we make sure that these routes are utilized by the onboard people for making the passage planning. Of late, we are in the process of adding Alfa Laval equipment, and that's where we are scaling up the entire portfolio. And once we have data from all these equipment, we would really know the exact, the technical capabilities and the time between overhauls. A lot of it has been based on, what it has been done on various other type of vessels or in the automobile industry. Shipping does not have typical records of time between overhauls for all the machineries. We are working very closely there, and we should have this up and about soon. So how we increase efficiency is we make sure that the data capturing is of a very high standard, and then, of course, that translates to voyage efficiency and the vessel efficiency. So that's the typical ship-to-shore reporting from the inside S log, as it's called. We use validation of the recorder. What that does actually is it warns the user on board that if you have filled in a particular entry, it warns the user that this is going out of range. And that's exactly what makes the data quality of a very high standard. So we make sure that over a period of about 6 months after we have launched this service on board, after 6 months we have seen that the data which comes in, the data quality which comes in is of a very high standard. And that's the data then we filter and use for our community sharing. Of course, we anonymize all the results and we put it in terms of our baselining and benchmarking. Yeah. We also have our performance centers. We have 2 at the moment, one in Hamburg and one in Singapore. Captain Chawla mentioned, and I believe somebody else also mentioned, Marriapps, they also have similar centers. So we also have these 2 centers which do cutting-edge technology work, and we make sure that the alerts which are sent out are very meaningful and useful for the onboard personnel. We also have the web portal, which of course displays live positions of all the vessels, and you can click on each of these vessels and drill down deep on what's happening in terms of its technical, commercial, and environmental capabilities, which essentially means that you would know how much of carbon is being emitted per voyage basis, really. So that's the granularity we are aiming at. We don't wait for a quarter or 6 months or for the year. We make sure that per voyage we are able to calculate the carbon emitted, and then so that you can take the next steps for reducing it if you want to for the next voyage or for the upcoming voyages. Working with data, that's the first thing. We analyze it, yeah? And if you look at the bottom right hand, there are 3 action data points: onboard optimization, voyage performance, and vessel performance, yeah? So the first one is you analyze the data for a self-service voyage performance. You do an onboard route optimization using our software, and it's completely self-service. You can choose from a plethora of drop-down menus, and you can look at the weather patterns and the developing sort of weather fronts, and you can do your route optimization accordingly. Then the second is, of course, the voyage performance, where our route analysts will help the vessel, making it through the correct weather so that you are optimized in terms of your correct power settings, and to make sure that the vessel optimizes fuel consumption. Last and not the least is the fleet performance and the hull and propeller performance, which is something which requires very accurate ship modeling. And that's where our hydrodynamics team makes sure that a perfect model based on the operational parameters is created for the vessel, and then we know for a particular speed and draft parameter what's the ideal power which is required. And based on the power reported from the vessel, we are able to make sure that the hull and propeller is kept at an optimum level. And on the basis of our results in the last few years, we have actually gone and with our customers, we are able to save quite a bit of money for them, because they can now optimize hull and propeller cleaning. Earlier, on an average, they were doing it once a year or maybe once in 6 months, depending upon the route and the voyage. Now, on the basis of our accurate predictions, they are able to do it as and when it's required. And as a result, this is like millions of dollars saving, literally. So what's new? We know the CII regulation is upcoming from the 1st of January 2023, right? So for those of you who are not fully aware of what this is something which will bring the shipping industry towards the path of decarbonization and towards digital transformation as well. So that's something which will make sure on a year-to-year basis you are monitoring the asset and making sure the vessel is in ship-shape condition, right? So we know that if we have a rating system from A to E, right? And IMO is very, very keen to have this up and running. So any vessel which has a rating which is below C, which means that if it's a D or an E, then you are given time frames within which you have to come back to C. And if you're not doing that, then the vessel will lose its charterability or its ability to make money for the owner, right? So it's very, very important that this CII monitoring is done. And at StormGeo Alfa Laval, we have made sure that we have this dashboard up and running. And what we also show is a moving CII. So it gives you a year-to-date value of your vessel's CII, which means that you can understand what's happening now, and it's July end already. So the first 7 months, how the vessel has done, you can monitor that, and you can make sure for the balance 5 months, you can take corrective action so that you fall within the required C rating and not go beyond D and E. So the top right hand on our dashboard indicates the A, B, C, D, E rating and where the vessel is, right, at the moment. So this gives our next voyage simulation, and we are glad to announce that we are the first company to go to the market with this CII simulator. And this has been very, very heartening for us because you can simulate the next voyage. Yeah? You can play around with this, and this is what people like to do. Yeah? You can play around with the figures for your next voyage, and you can come up with the optimum speed and the conditions, what you need for maintaining a particular CII rating. So this is first of its kind, and it is really very heartening for us to see how the industry has taken to it. We keep getting sort of inquiries on this, and we have already had about 500 to 600 vessels sign up in the last 1 month. We launched this for the Posidonia event in June, and it's been a month and a half now. We are seeing very good results. Interestingly, we do a full year simulation as well. Not only the next voyage, you can then calculate, till December, because CII is a yearly event. So end of the year, what your rating is going to be, you can fill in some figures. Of course, you might not know, if you're not a liner service, you might not know the exact voyage details and how many nautical miles you need to do. But of course, you can fill in some figures, and with some estimates, you can fill in the numbers, and we can simulate the CII figures. This is again very, very useful for charterers and operators who are keen to get their vessels redelivered after a period of time. Yeah, so this full year simulation gives really eye-opening insight into how your asset will perform. Yeah, you can put in measurements of uncertainty and sea margin details as well, so that it factors in all this. And it also has the adjustments which IMO has come up with. The adjustments are that they have given certain remissions and exceptions for some of the vessels. For example, on container vessels, if you're operating reefer plants, that you can get that thing exempted, because then that carbon emission won't be calculated in the CII calculation. So things like that you can put in over here, and then you get a full year simulation value, right? So can you play this short video, please?
We are passionate about protecting the future of our planet.
Okay, so
It's our why.
I'm going to do it now, especially one thing.
Why our data scientists, routing experts, and meteorologists navigate shipping toward decarbonization. Why we help maximize production in offshore wind. Why we keep businesses safe from severe weather. What's your why? StormGeo Alpha Laval, putting our best minds forward.
So, only the students. It's confidential of Indian industries, right? Because that's what you get when you Google. Who was the first one? Next statement when somebody says who was the first one, always read out. So, I was going through an article where they say last 5 years, which caused rising which one? COVID cases. Well, 5 years पहले तो COVID था ही नहीं.
We are passionate about protecting the future of our
Second
planet.
was Akshay Kumar's annual income. So, after technology, the exponential rise
It's our why.
was annual income. So that sets me. And without asking,
Why our data scientists, routing experts, and meteorologists navigate shipping toward decarbonization. Why we help maximize production in offshore wind. Why we keep businesses safe from severe weather.
remember this in your life. Even the questions are silly. There's nothing called foolish questions. There's always foolish answers.
Thanks for saying
Yeah. And I don't mean anything to what the answer is going to give. But yeah. So Captain Bhandarkar. Captain Bhandarkar, can you be hired for any conference just for asking questions? I'm just, because you're such a beautiful resource with that.
Okay, I'll tell you something about myself. I went into technology recently, 2 years during COVID. My first question to Captain Seal, Mr. Seal or Captain Seal is that...
By the way, you please stand here, otherwise people will think I'm answering questions. No.
See, this data that is...
Microphone, please.
So the data that is coming to you, to StormGeo, is it coming from a satellite system from on board the ship through the Inmarsat?
Well, it's a plethora of ways. That's a good question you asked, because now technology is evolving as we speak. I mean, the amount of data which is now being put on a VSAT or a satellite, that percentage is changing on the upwards.
So this is integrated with Exacta data?
Yes, it is.
With Exacta?
Yes.
Not the American satellites. Okay, thanks.
Right, but I mean, it's like, if the vessel is in a gray area where they have to use some other satellite system, then it's routed through there. Yeah.
Kaushik, hi. Sheldon here.
Sheldon, yes.
Kaushik, do you all have the cyber security measures in place in case of any sort of malfunction?
Yes, that's a very good question. And a short answer to that is yes, because unless you are cyber secure, you really can't operate any digital or IT platform, right?
Very good question, Sheldon.
Yeah. And it's the need of the hour, and I'm glad to state that our systems are of a very high cyber proofing. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
30 seconds are up. One question from the student desk. Who's asking? Yeah. Any? Basin sir. Yes, please. Microphone to Basin sir, please. No. Sagar, just make sure Captain Shekhar is on the Zoom call. Next session. Yeah.
Kaushik, thank you for the wonderful presentation. And of course, I must admit here that we have been using his system, and he's one of the foremost person in CII. I just want, just for the general public and awareness, because we have just been going through EXI and suddenly now CII. I should not be saying suddenly if it is there. So just in some perspective, the difference between the two.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And it's a good question because people are asking about what's the difference between EEXI and CII. Yeah, so CII is actually a more short-term duration actionable point, which means it allows the asset, you're allowed to know on a yearly basis how you have performed. And it also includes port emissions. In the operational indices, it's more on the amount that the vessel has emitted during a voyage. And we somehow miss out the other emissions, the carbon emissions, which the vessels do in port and in anchoring and maneuvering and all that. So CII is supposed to take an overarching view and the total carbon emitted for a vessel. Of course, you can have a bit of exceptions for some of the parameters, but above it's the entire year's data. Yeah, so that's the difference between CII. But it's a good case because unless we have these measures in place, shipping will not reach the 2030 goal that we are having in mind.
Okay, so listen, we will just have two more questions. We have Captain Shekhar joining us on Zoom. 1 sec.
Okay.
1 sec, yeah. Joining us on Zoom, and we don't want to keep him much waiting, so we'll connect. Anything from the student side? Yes.
Yeah. As you said, Key will be having as you said, sir, we'll be having CII on board soon. So, how we are going to measure the carbon intensity by that indicator? And if we are measuring, then what will be the correction factors to it? If you are measuring the carbon intensity with the help of CII.
I think that was a part of the presentation. Yes.
It was, but I'll just answer. Yeah, since he took the trouble of framing up a question and standing up and asking in itself is a big thing, my friend.
So round of applause
and,
for him, yes.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. Never mind what you have asked. Actually, I showed you that. Yeah, but I'll still answer this. The CII is, of course, an indicator which gives the amount of carbon which is being emitted, to the atmosphere. And if we give a value and we assign a grading to a vessel, then the vessel and the operator knows that they have to remain in that boundary. Yeah? And of course, the calculations are very important. How do you calculate, right? So the data which comes from the vessel has to be very accurate. Right? Otherwise, where is the veracity? How do you know that the data is coming in is good, bad, or ugly? So that collection of data, what we do at StormGeo, is of a very high standard. And that's what makes the difference. Yeah? The trust in that data. Yeah?
Thank you. Please introduce yourself before asking the question. Yes, please.
Hi.
We have a huge, large audience watching us online, live at YouTube. Yeah.
Sure. Marian, Bureau Veritas. Kaushik, you mentioned the whole idea of the system is that you have...
Just speak a bit louder, sir, if you don't mind.
You mentioned that the whole idea of the system is to have the improvement for the very next voyage based on the conclusions from the previous voyage. My question is, how does it really work in practice? Because we know there is lots of resistance to implement changes on board of the vessel. Is it, what's experience?
Right.
It's extremely good if it can be implemented.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that question, Marian. So our experience with using this solution on board is we try and give a lot of autonomy back to the vessel. And when the vessel is planning the next voyage, we make sure that the values, what they have done in the previous voyage, is given back to the vessel at the end of each voyage. And this feedback loop is very, very important. Unless you tell how the vessel is performing and giving the feedback to the vessel there and then, most of the times we have seen a feedback goes back to the vessel after the crew has already signed off. And then it's meaningless. So we make sure that at the end of each voyage, we have that voyage data ready for consumption for the vessel's master and the crew, so that you can then implement the changes. So we give a lot of autonomy.
Dr. Sid is there.
I hope that answers.
I think we can go to him because because he's been raising up his hand.
Hi, Sanjeev Panikar from Zener Maritime Solutions. Kaushik, related to the commercial impact of the CII, with the vessels will be requiring to get some offsets, carbon offsets. Will the future hold that like your platform will be able to provide an ETS, emission trading scheme, where they would be able to buy carbon offsets for the vessels which are not compliant? Is that some possibility that we can see coming in the future?
That's a very good question. I mean, we at some point in time would like to commercialize this particular platform and make sure that the CII moves on to the next stage, which is basically market-based measures and emission trading scheme. I mean, the idea is that in order to make it a level playing field, you have to be as transparent as possible on the platform. And if on this platform we are able to give that, it will be the next logical step. But yes, we haven't yet done it, but I'm sure we'll try and implement this in the near future.
One last question, please, because I'm getting threatening looks from Captain Sharma. You don't want to be, nobody wants to be in the bad books of Captain Yaki Sharma, okay? So
True.
Just 5 minutes more, then, yeah, Dr.
Is CII rating done by StormGeo, CII rating done by DNV, CII rating done by Lloyd's Register or any other competent agencies. Will it be different for a particular vessel? Can it be different rather?
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, and yeah, it could be. It could be like different, yeah, basis on the data quality. Yeah, it could be like different. Yeah.
No, because I have had the incident, like people are now going to different agencies for CII rating. Vessel is the same, consumption is the same, IMO guideline is the same, but how it differs, it is something a puzzle to me.
Right. I mean, it's like your CRISIL and all those care ratings also, right? And it's also in the stock markets and how the evaluation is done. It's like, it's the same, I would say.
So there are some gray areas, that means.
Things you cannot understand, don't even try to like Salman Khan's fan following. You know, Amir Khan spends 5 years doing a and making 100 crores, and then Salman Khan just shakes up his belt and then it goes 300 crores.
So that means my vessel rated E, I go to 5 different agencies and see, who can make it C.
Right, yeah, it can happen like that, yeah, and with some commercial exchanges, E can become C, right? That's what you're trying to say. But
okay,
yeah.
So I think I'm sorry I interrupted and stop here because we have another session, people waiting. So Akanksha, over to you, and we can do the honors of the mementos, please.
Thank you so much, Captain Shoukat. In the interest of time, may I please request Captain Vaseem to present a memento to Mr. Seal.
Can we have the memento?